Hello, pattern makers. In another video, I introduced to you the concept of contouring by talking about how the basic block that we made is designed to traverse certain contours of the body. And I cut it apart and I showed how if we wanted to make something like a sweetheart neckline, that it would be very loose because it wasn't made to be disconnected from its other parts. So it's way too big to stay up because it needed to have all that ease to do its job. And so what we need to do is we need to mark these contouring spots on our pattern so that when we go to use it to make something that's more cut out, we have some guidelines to follow. And we might still need to do some tweaking and some fitting, but it'll at least get us started. So one of the first things we need to do is we need to figure out the bust radius. And my tape measures disappeared. There we go. So what we do is we measure from the apex to where the bust stops being a bust, basically, and turns into the rib cage. So for us, that looks like it's going to be 3 inches. So I'm just checking the radius all the way around. So our bust radius will be 3 inches. So we'll start by marking that on our pattern. So I'll come over here, come into the book, and let's scroll through the book a little bit. So they talk about the principle here, which I kind of talked about in the other video, and it's showing the spots where we generally need to take in excess. And so you see the circle that it has around the apex, that's our bust radius. So there it tells us that when we're preparing the contour guidelines, radius. So I just measured this PGM natural body form and it appears to be about 3. So what it wants us to do is to trace off our patterns, but I'm just going to put our contour lines right on our basic block. And then when we go to trace it off in the future, we'll have those markings already there and we can trace them onto whatever style it is that we're going to create. So they'll have us place a compass at the bust point and draw a circle using the bust point radius measurement. Okay, so let's come over to maybe this camera, or maybe this camera. So we'll come over to our pattern. And what I need is my front and my back bodice. So there's a bunch of things you can do, a bunch of things you can use as a compass. One of my favorites, let me see if I can find one, here's one. I like the tape measures that have a hole. And then what I can do is, so I want 3 inches. I can measure from that hole where my pencil point is going to be 3 inches. And then I can put my awl there. Sorry, I'm wiggling you as I search for my awl, which should be here. So I'll pretend. I'll use a thumbtack. So that represents 3 inches from where my pencil will go in the hole. and then I can use that to draw a circle. So that's one way. You can actually get a compass, which is a tool for drawing circles. You might also have a ruler that has little holes in it. So you can also use that, similar to the way I used the tape measure. So I can put my thumbtack in one of the holes, and then 3 inches away I can put my pencil in. This is going to get in my way. Let's see where you won't get in the way of anything. So here. And will that work? Things falling off table. I'll just do this right in the middle. There we go. And then I just need to find a spot 3 inches away. So 1, 2, 3. Put my pencil in the other hole. And then I can go ahead and draw my radius. And actually, I'm going to do that on the other side where there isn't any writing, because that will be easier for you to see. So, one, two, three. That doesn't work. 1, 2, 3. Draw the bust radius. So then the next thing we want to do is we want to, usually what they have you do is they have you put a little punch hole in the bust radius. So I'll go ahead and use my screw punch and put a hole in the bust radius. So have that. And then they'll have us start marking our contour spots. So for our first contour spot is for open necklines, and that is from mid-neck. So you can measure, or you can fold, find the middle of the neck, and then you draw a line from mid-neck to the apex. And this is guideline number 1. And this is for cutout necklines. And then what we do is, let's flip back over to the dress form. And I'll grab a couple of rulers. And So from apex, one, 2, 3 inches. One more time. So 1, 2, 3 inches. Put a pin. And then, come on, look at my cool nails. Yeah, follow that, buddy. Autofocus is great. There we go. So what I did was I directed from mid-neck to apex, and 3 inches from apex, I put a pin. Now, let's see. What I do is I put a ruler between the apex and that pin, or rather the apex and the spot, and then a ruler where that pin is, and I measure the distance from the dress form to the bottom of the ruler at that 3-inch mark. And then I go over to my pattern. And I measure that distance along the bust radius circle, and I make a mark, and then I draw from that mark to the apex, and from that mark to the mid-neck. And your textbook tells you that the standard measurement for this is 1/4 inch. So we'll use that measurement. So this is what we want our line to look like for number 1. So we'll come back over here, and then I'll write along my bust radius the measurement that I used, just so that I don't forget. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and color this in to show the contour line like I did on this one. So then our next contour line is, so contour line number 2 is from our shoulder tip to our apex. And this is for when we have more open armholes. So from shoulder tip to apex, I draw a line. And then from there, I mark out the distance. So mark out the distance along the bust radius going towards the front. That is the gap at that spot. So again, I can go over to my dress form. My other, oh, there you are. So dress form. And I can put my ruler on the apex and towards shoulder tip. And then 1, 2, 3 inches out, I can measure that distance. And then your book says that the standard measurement for that is 1/2 inch. So again, it's totally going to depend on the shape of a body, but that's the standard. So we can go, or we can use the measurement off of our natural body form. So I'll go ahead and mark that on the bust radius. I find that the natural body form is like firmer than a human, and it doesn't give as much when you do these measurements. And so the measurements on the natural body form aren't this big, but when you try it on an actual human model, you need larger measurements than what the natural body form gives you. So this is 1/2 inch, and this is guideline number 2, and it's for cutout armholes. And then we'll go back to the book. And so number 3 is armhole ease. So that's from apex to the curve of the armhole, which is about 3/4 inch from the armhole notch. So let's switch back to our pattern. So I'll measure 3/4 from our armhole notch and draw a line from there to the apex. So I'll make a little notation here that it's this way, 3/4 inch, just so you kind of have an idea. And again, with this, when you try it on, it'll tell you. It really depends on the shape of the body, but this is a good spot to put it. Let me switch over to the form so you can see. So sometimes it's basically like this meat right here creates that gap right there. So we just need a place to put it on our form or on our pattern, and 3/4 is a good spot. And then we'll measure our standard measurement. Or again, we could use the rulers on the natural body form. Let's go ahead and show that just for fun. So I'd go from the apex to mid armhole and measure that 3 inches. So that's right there, 3 inches from the apex, and then get that depth. So that looks like 1/4 inch. And then the other thing you can do to figure out where this is I could measure this and get an approximate. So it looks like 3 3/4. So let's just see how that compares just for fun. I'm not going to have us move it, but So yeah, that has it up higher, but we're going to leave that there, and we can do one more comparison. So this distance is 2. So I can go this way too, and aim in this direction. And then 3 inches. And I'm still getting about 1/4 of an inch. So we'll leave it where it was. I just wanted to do the experiment. Sometimes it's fun just to see what things are doing so that when you go to fit it in real life, you have an idea of what's happening. So for us, we're going to go 1/4 of an inch, and you just do 1/4 of an inch. So, and it's not at the circle, it's at the armhole. So 1/4 of an inch, draw the line, and then so this is guideline number 3, and this is armhole ease. And then I'll write right up at the armhole 1/4 of an inch, so that we know we took the 1/4 out here, not here on the bust radius like we're doing some of these others. So then next, we have the empire style line. So what we're going to do for that is draw a line from the apex to basically the dart leg. So instead of from dart termination point, we're drawing from the apex, and we're going to go to the dart leg. So we'll draw that line on each side of the dart. So this is for when you have an empire style line, so under the bust, and you don't want it to just bridge from the waist to the apex. You want it to tuck underneath the bust and then have the rest of the bodice do something different. So you need a tighter fit under the bust. So for that, what you do is help you to come see the dress form. So for that, we put the ruler at the princess seam at the waist and at the apex. And then 3 inches from the apex, so 1, this is 2, this is 3. We measure that distance. So it looks like it's about, how can I do that so you can see? So 2, 3, right there. So that distance is about 3/4 of an inch. So we'll go back to our pattern. And we need to split that between the 2 sides of the dart. So on this side of the dart, along the bust radius, we'll go out 3/8 of an inch. And then we'll draw our new shape. So this is why I want to color these in, because now with the dart legs and the contour lines, it's kind of hard to see what's happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a highlighter and color them in so that it's easier to see. So I'm going to go ahead and put 3/8 here. And I'm going to write that this is guideline 4 for Empire style line. So guide line number 4, Empire. So next, we want to do the contouring for when we have something that wants to, like normally we want to traverse from apex to apex across the bust bridge, but sometimes we need things not to like stick off funny towards the center. We need it to contour around the bust. So what we would do for this is we would, right at bust level, bring you over to the dress form. So right at bust level, we would see how far it is from the bust bridge to the center front. So from that bust tape until I touch the form. What is that bridge? So on this dress form, it looks like 1 inch, but the standard is 3/4. So we'll just use the standard. And we split that on either side of bust level. So 3/8 of 1 inch on this side of bust level. And it's just, so 3/8, make a mark. And then flip it over, 3/8, make a mark. And then we go like that. And then I'll write on there 3/8 and 3/8. And this is guideline number 5, contour between busts. So and then next, number 6 is for the excess above the bust for strapless designs. So number 6 is a combination of 1, 2, and 3. So here, let me show you the book. Maybe that will help. So it's up here. So what we're going to do is draw a guideline from bust point to mid-shoulder, and we're going to add the depth measurements of 1, 2, and 3. And then we'll subtract 1/8 of 1 inch to offset the thickness of the inner construction rather, and then we'll connect the lines to the bust point. So we'll start by drawing a line. From the apex to mid-shoulder. So we can fold or measure. So there's mid-shoulder. And then draw a line to the apex. And then add up guidelines 1, 2, and 3. So 1 is a quarter, 2 is a half, 3 is a quarter, but I think we want to do it on the, let me see, at the arm, on the apex right here. So let's see. 1 is a quarter, 2 is a half, that's 3 quarters. Sorry, I have people distracting me. Yeah, so we'll take the measurement right here rather than all the way in the armhole. So the measurement right here for me is 1/8. So a quarter and a half is 3 quarters, plus 1/8 is 7/8. So I need to put half of 7/8 on either side of this line. So so that would be 7/16. Actually, I'm just going to have it spread over from here because that'll look cuter. So this doesn't look cute. Because it'll intersect with this and it'll be too confusing. So I'm just going to go 3 quarters over from here. Draw my line. And this is going to be, so this right here is 3 quarters. And then this is number 6. And this is for strapless. I'm going to write it on both sides because we don't have the long line extending for this one. Do it this way. So now I think we just need 2 more. We need the one at the shoulder and the one at the side seam. So shoulder slope, what we do for that is we measure at the center of the shoulder, we measure down 1/8, and we draw a line from high point shoulder to that 1/8 down in the middle. And this is again for when it's really open from either end, whether it's open at the armhole or open at the neckline. This, you pinch it up here to make it less gappy. So I'm going to write right here 1/8, and then I'm going to write on this that it's shoulder slope. And then the side seam is here. So it's usually 0 at the waist to 1/2 inch at the underarm. And I'm going to write that that goes in 1/2 inch. And then this is just side, oops, S-I-D-E, seam, ease. And then those 2 also happen on the back. So that's the front. On the back, we also have that same. So on each dart leg, we'll come down 1/8. So it'll be nothing at shoulder tip to 1/8 at the dart leg. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. 1/8 at the dart leg, nothing at high point shoulder. And then the side seam ease, nothing at the waist to 1/2 inch at the underarm. And then we also need one more for the back. Sometimes when we cut out like low, we need some of this to disappear. So what is our standard for that? So it just says go to the HBL, or the shoulder blade level. So we draw a line that is straight up. To the shoulder blade level. And we just go from the dart leg to shoulder blade level. Actually, this would look better on the other side. No, it looks bad on both sides. So, like this. And like this. So, now, just to make it more clear, I'll go ahead and highlight these so that they're easier to see where they are. I need a scrap. I think I need to get some, instead of a highlighter, I need to get some real art markers because, I mean, pattern paper is marker paper, but I am not happy with the result. Okay. So there we go. Our contour guidelines.